Welcome to my newest video. My name is LookAtTheBacon, and here I want to showcase the Mulligan guide for my Amber Sapphire list Anna Aggro. It has gained some traction recently. Thanks for all the follows and the kind comments, I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just want to show some hands on Dreamborn. If you want to play along and do it like a little quiz, you can of course pause the video every time you see a new hand, write down what you would cut, what you would put back into your deck, and then you can, compare your choices to my choices and your reasoning to my reasoning. As a short preface, I want to add 3 things. The first thing is that we are running 11 uninkables and 49 inkables currently, which is really great because we will always have 5 ink on turn 5, because we are able to theoretically draw 14 cards with a hard mulligan, and then the first 4 or 5 draws, depending on if we're on the play or on the draw, will result us in getting 18 or 19 cards respectively. So yeah, regarding of rather following Frank Karsten's guide from tcgplayer.com, that statistically shows that we will have good curve and good inkables 100% of the time, even if we needed 6 or ink on turn 6 because of our low uninkable count. He did the math on this in this really interesting article. I can link it in the show notes in the description down below. The second preface that I want to make is that he also included in the article the probabilities of drawing a certain card in your opening hand, and if you have only one of this card in your deck, like for us it's the Chanabog, it's the single Wendy and the single Jasmine, the probability is 11.7%. If you have 2 copies of the card, like for instance the Nothing to Hide, the Shift Auroras currently, the Hades, Judy, and stuff like that, it is 22.1%. We are running no 3-offs, so we can skip this one, and the 4-offs 39.9%. So these are the bread and butter of your deck: the Kida, the Lilo, the Simba, the Anna, the Aurora, the Caterpillar, the Hands, the Anna, Grammatala, Sisu, Mufasa, and of course the Develop Your Brain. I forgot the Magdark mana with the 1-offs. My bad. Yeah, so this is just that you know how the proportions work, how the probabilities work rather. And thirdly, I want to add that the deck, in my opinion, is quite tech friendly. So it is definitely a possibility to maybe cut another Caterpillar and add another Judy, which is something that I am currently looking into because I'm currently playing offline and running against many blue steel and red blue decks that are item heavy, so one more Judy could be nice. I'm even debating about maybe cutting an Anna for another Magdark mana, just because Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst is getting more and more traction recently in the latest tournaments. And yeah, so this is also great against them, or would be great. And also there could be a possibility to maybe cut a Sisu for another Shift Aurora or something like this, just to be able to get the ward out and use this effect to protect our cards from the spells of the enemy, from the actions and songs and stuff like that. But this is all up for debate. The list is really solid, and the core is very robust with the hero and princess lines in synergy with the hands. So yeah, that's about it. So let's dive into it. Let's see. The first hand. We have 2 1-drops, which is very good. We only run 9 1-drops after our latest deck additions. So this is really nice for us. And we also, if we are on the draw, have the opportunity to react to the enemy. If we have an enemy that has must trade targets, we usually don't trade, but for instance in a emerald steel matchup we can trade the small Robin Hood with the Kida, so we would here keep the Kida, and in all other matchups most probably we will keep the Lilo, as it's just much quicker in the lore game, or rather play the Lilo. We are keeping both for sure. Also, we have an amazingly lucky hand with the two 2-drops, the Anna and the Simba, because we are also very flexible here. If we see that we play against the ramp deck like blue steel or red blue, we can of course go the tempo route and play the Anna. And if we see that we play against a more mid-rangey deck like red purple or something like that, we can of course play the Simba to protect the Lilo, or the Kida rather. Also, if we know what we're up against, like in a top cut in a tournament where the deck lists are open, and we play against blue steel or red blue, we will of course keep the Judy. And if not, we don't have to keep her because we have a Hans, and the line Lilo Anna Hans is extremely great for us. And therefore, yes, I really like this hand, and I would most probably only cut the Sisu and push it back. But in a tournament setting where we don't know what we're facing, we don't really need the Judy that much, and so it is definitely an option to put her back into the deck as well. And I mean, this is a general mulligan guide, so we don't know what we're up against, and therefore I would personally put it back. We have so few uninkables that we don't have to fear of drawing uninkables, and so yeah, let's mulligan these two. Let's see what we get. We got a Wendy and a Hades. Hades basically serves the same purpose or function as the Sisu, which was here, and we have the Wendy, which is an inkable, which is absolutely fine. So we could go ink the Wendy on turn 1, depending on if we're on the draw on the play and what our enemies are. We play the Lilo or the Kida, and then, as I said before, we drop the Anna or the Simba, and most probably ink what we draw or ink the Kida if we played the Lilo. Because if we go the Anna route, we of course want to keep the Hans to trigger the Hans. Okay, it was a really great hand, by the way. Amazing hand to start. Second hand, let's play another game. If you want to play along in this mulligan guide in the quiz format, you can pause now. So, this is really a harsh hand. Oh my gosh, we don't have any 1-drops and we don't have any 2-drops, and we have 2 uninkables. The Mufasa comes very late, the Grammatala and the Anna come very late, so most probably this would be one of these hands where you're doomed to, you're destined to put everything back. And I think everything else would be wrong, because we need the tempo, we need our 1-drops, we need our 2-drops, and so there is a world where you can argue or start to argue to keep a 3-drop so that you maybe can play something on 3 and have an inkable option, but this is, in my opinion, one of these hands where you have to face palm and then just redraw. Okay, we got a Kida, we got a Lilo, which is again amazing because we have the choice which route we want to go. We have a Wayne for turn 2, and then we can dig for even more answers before we drop our bigger threats, which is really nice. This is quite lucky because we got a 1 and 2 and draw. So yeah, we would most probably play along the lines of inking Mufasa, play Lilo or Kida depending on what we're playing against. Then probably ink the Anna and play the Wendy because we don't have that much of the perfect curve or tempo that we will use her right now, and so yeah, hope to draw into a 3 drop, and if not, Nothing to Hide can help us on turn 3 to look for another 2 drop when we ink the Grammatala and use this mana for this one. So this is okay-ish. Next hand we have, just pause the video right now if you want to play along. We have 2 1-drops in actions with Nothing to Hide and Develop Your Brain, and we have a Kida. Then we have a Wendy and a Simba, and a Caesar and a Chatterbox. So this is most probably very easy in my opinion. This is very straightforward mulligan, because we will never keep the Chatterbox, and we will more often than not always also cut the Sisu. And yeah, because we want to play the Kida on 1, which is our guaranteed 1-drop, and we want to have the flexibility again to go the tempo route or the protection route. Keeping these 2 is just fine, because we will ink them more often than not, and if we draw inkables, we can also ink them, and then on 3 maybe look for more answers. So I would probably keep these 5, but there is a world where I can see you inking 1 or both of these as well, just to fish for a 3-drop. Most probably I would choose or opt to put the Nothing to Hide back as well, but I'm unsure. Depends on the matchup, depends on if I'm on the play or on the draw. Let's do it like this and see what we get. We got another 1-drop, we got a 4-drop and another 4-drop, uninkable and inkable. So most probably the line would be to ink the Anna on turn 1, drop the Kida, and then ink the second Kida to play either the Simba or the Wendy, and on 3 we ink what we draw and play the Wendy and the Develop Your Brain to fish for another inkable that we can then ink for a Hades, because most probably one of these gets traded, and if not, we can fish for other 4-drops. So that would be the line here. It's an okay-ish hand. It hasn't that much tempo, because we are not finding our Lilo, and also not the Hans combo. New hand. We here have a Lilo, just pause if you want to do it as well, and a Kida, which is amazing as well, again, because we have the flexibility. And we also have the Simba. This is like a 3rd time in a row or something that we have a Kida and a Simba, which is amazing. And we also have the Hans. And because we have the Hans, we will of course always keep the Hans and just ditch our rest, because we really want to look forward to getting another princess, because we are unsure if we play the Kida or not, and or if it survives. It only will survive against something like red-blue, because they will never brawl it or small Sisu it or something like that. And therefore, yeah, another princess would be amazing if we go the Lilo route, and therefore hard mulligan these 3 for sure. Of course, keep the Judy if you know if you're up against item decks to eat their quill, but yeah, their Great Stone Dragon will be dead anyway, because we never trade, and so they don't get material out of that. But that is quite an easy hand to mulligan as well, in my opinion. We got an Anna, which is really great, and a Jasmine, which we could ink. So if we are on the play, we just ink the Jasmine, drop the Lilo, then ink the Kida, play the Anna, and then ink the Simba, play the Hans. And if we're on the draw, we see what the enemy has. If it's a regular deck or an aggro deck, a hyper aggro deck, a mid-range deck, or a mid-to-control deck, we probably don't go the Hans route, and we could ink the Anna, play the Simba, just to protect the Lilo a bit more. That is up for debate. We will see. We would have to see what the matchup really looks like. But this is a great hand. We would most probably win this game, or at least get a good tempo out. Next hand, we have a Lilo as our 1-drop, we have a Simba, and 2 Auroras. Interestingly enough, people asked me if the Develop Your Brain or the Nothing to Hides are valid turn 1 plays, and in my opinion, they are not. So you want to get on the board, you want to lure as quickly as possible, and therefore, yeah, we cannot do this play on turn 1 because we're not a ramp deck, we're not a midrange deck, we're not a control deck. We want to be as aggro as possible, so therefore the small minions are very important, and these cards are just to find new cards to play and to drop onto the board after you get board wiped. You got board wiped, sorry. And therefore, I mean, if you ink the Mufasa for the Lilo, and then ink the Aurora, and you can either play the Simba or the Aurora. This is amazing, right? So, yeah, it's debatable to keep or not to keep this Develop Your Brain. In my opinion, we risk it and we cut it. We would definitely keep the Mufasa to ink it. I mean, in my opinion, you don't need all 4 Mufasas. And so, this is totally fine to keep. Ditching all 3 would be a bit greedy in my opinion, because if we get 2 or 3 uninkables, we are absolutely screwed. And especially in a tournament setting, I wouldn't actively risk that, but that's just me personally. I had an interesting discussion with a friend of mine some days ago, where we did some mulligans for his deck. And we did like 10 to 15 mulligans and discussed every picks and made the picks secretly. And he sometimes used to do something like this as well, even if this would be a very valid ink target. So we are disagreeing here because he will always mulligan more greedy than me, and in my opinion this is plainly wrong, because you need to know what cards in your deck are fair to ink and how greedy you can get with your mulligan without falling flat on your face. And so if we ink it, if we mulligan like this and we get back 3 or 4 uninkables, the game is basically lost, in my opinion, because then we have to hope to draw all inkables just to be able to keep the Lilo and the Aurora plus or Simba line alive, and this is bad. And so we want to win the tournament, or at least finish as good as possible, and therefore doing it like this is totally safe. Also, there's a world where we also keep the Develop Your Brain. We can ditch both and see what we get. We get a Kida and a Sisu. You see, we got 1 uninkable, which isn't the greatest thing in the world, but yeah. So our playline would be ditch the Mufasa for the Lilo, then ditch 1 Aurora for Simba or rather the Aurora, depending on the matchup. And then we have to see. Okay, so let's talk about some matchups for this next hand. People have asked me if there are any matchup-specific mulligans. Of course, we will most probably always go for the best tempo. That's sure. Also, we don't want to have so many uninkables just to keep the flexibility. But as I said before, we talked about the Judy in length. We will always keep her if we know that we're up against blue steel or up against red blue. And we will always keep the Lilo into Anna or Aurora or something like that, plus Hans line if we have it, because we just want to snowball as much as possible. And we most probably never keep draw unless it's against Emerald Steel, and if you know that it's against Emerald Steel, because then cards like Nothing to Hide and Develop Your Brain, etc. become way more important, because then we can refill our hand quickly even after we had discarded something. So yeah, that's about it. In this situation, in this hand right here, what would we keep? We would, of course, keep the Lilo, and in general, this is also a rule of thumb. Always aim to have a 1-drop. This is easy, and this is logical, of course, but what I mean is a minion, right? Not an action. We talked about this before. We don't want to draw on 1. We want to develop the board and get luring. And therefore, of course, hard mulligan for a 1 if you don't have a 1. A 1 is more important than a 2 is more important than a 3, etc. Because it just snowballs. Especially if the enemy doesn't have a 1-drop, him or herself. So yeah, and we ditched the uninkables here, and probably the Judy, because as I said, we are mulliganing this in this guide for a general game in a tournament setting where we don't know what we're facing. And yeah, so our playline would be ink the Anna, play the Lilo, ink the Nothing to Hide, play the Anna, right? So this is what we know, and let's see what we get. We get an Anna, a Charabug, and a Caterpillar. So right now, we would most probably ink the Anna to play the Lilo, then ink this Anna to play this Anna, and then ink the Nothing to Hide to play the Caterpillar. That's quite good, but the Chernobog, we don't like to see it in our opening hand. This just clogs up our hand, it's unplayable, takes a long time to be able to be played because the enemy has to do so many trades. And yeah, so this is a very unlucky mulligan. But the tempo is there, I can see working out for us. Because the Lilo into Anna into Caterpillar line is amazing tempo-wise, and yeah, takes many decks off guard. Hopefully you got some ideas how to pilot the deck, and you can play this yourself. If you go to dreamborn.inc, go to your decks, go to my deck, and then go to simulate. And I wish you the best of luck for your own games in the future with the deck. Let me know what you think about the mulligans and what you would have changed. Bye bye.